And Ethan Calhoun is a state planner with Northwest Georgia Regional Commission out of Rome. What you've got in front of you is a packet of information that includes the information from the last meeting, some of the comments that were made. The first item that we're going to discuss in a couple of minutes is community goals and policies, which is the big picture. The next item is thinking more specifically in terms of whether it's Blaine, Nelson, specific areas of the city of Jasper, thinking about the future development, future land use, and that can coincide and is related to the existing zoning or land use districts of individual properties, but does not have to be exactly the same. So for example, there may be a certain area where it might say future development could be residential, small scale commercial, and or institutional. Now that doesn't necessarily translate to the existing zoning district, but it serves as a guide for future development. And when somebody comes in before the Planning Commission, whether it's one of the cities or the county, and applies to rezone property from, let's say, residential to commercial, one of the factors for consideration, especially at the county level, is what does the future development or future land use map show? Is it consistent or is it not consistent? So I'll turn it over to Ethan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, I should say. Glad to be back here in Jasper, getting back to work on the comprehensive plan. If I start talking too fast, y'all just slow me down. I had to drop off some stuff earlier in Whitfield County, and the clerk and some of their friends, they had some Puerto Rican coffee. One of the ladies there actually grew up in Puerto Rico. They brought back some coffee, and they would not let me leave without trying some first. So if I get a little shaky, that's why. But I think tonight, to start off, Richard kind of ran through the agenda. And I think the first thing we want to do is kind of recap what we went over during the last meeting. And I think we might have a handout. Everybody might have the information in there. Richard did a nice write-up, kind of a summary, bullet points of what we talked about last time, some of the major points that came out of this last stakeholder meeting. And during that meeting, we conducted a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The purpose of that is to generate what will be in our plan, a comprehensive plan called the needs and opportunities for Pickens County and all the cities inside Pickens County. So that's to determine what the county and the cities need and what opportunities exist, to figure out and extrapolate from that what can be done to encourage those opportunities or meet those needs. So in looking at where we're at in the planning process right now, planning is sort of a three-pronged tactic. You got to first off figure out where you're at, and that's kind of what we did during the last meeting. The second step is to figure out where you're going, and the third step, and sometimes a tough one, is to figure out how you're going to get there. And of course, so right now we're trying to figure out where we're going. And so, y'all can look through the handout. I think in the interest of time, instead of going back through and rehashing all that out, you can be looking at that, be thinking about some of those things, kind of bring everybody back up to speed. Some of y'all folks I recognize have been in the last meetings. I see some new faces as well. So you can kind of use that as a prompt for tonight. So in understanding that we've already conducted that SWOT analysis and we're moving forward and trying to figure out where we want to go, one of the ways to do that is to establish goals. Now, of course, goals are very broad. Last meeting we talked about some kind of specific things. We kind of went through item by item as far as economic development, jobs, education, housing, land use we kind of touched on, and a few other topics, kind of departmentalized topics. Tonight, when we talk about goals, goals are not necessarily getting down into the the specifics, like maybe we talked about last time. We're not talking about specific projects. And goals, we're looking at a bigger picture. You know, we're looking at the forest, not the trees tonight, is in terms of goals. Now, also in that handout, I believe, Richard, you had we did a little excerpt of some of the goals from the last comprehensive plan. And you'll see some, you know, itemized, you know, portions of that where it's talking about quality of life and things to that nature. And there's a couple of little kind of fluff sentences in there, if you will. And that's what goals are. It's kind of going and overreaching when you're talking about goals. That is ideologically where you would like to see the county and your cities at in 10 years or 25 years on down the road. That's the overall end goal. So when you talk about things like that, it's just about quality of life type things, you know, quality education, quality of life, you know, diversity of housing, things to that nature. So at this point, in thinking about that, just thinking about goals, I'm sure everybody in here has sort of got goals, aspirations that they'd like to see achieved in the county and their respective cities. I think tonight, when we talk about goals, we can just kind of be general. If anybody has a goal that is specific to a city, you know, we can obviously address that independently. Some cities are going to have different goals than another city. Obviously, Talking Rock, it may have some different direction or different goal than Jasper, and the same for Pickens County versus every one of the cities. So everybody, as far as cities are concerned, if you're representing a city tonight or as a citizen of the city, please make sure you make note of that as you suggest. Richard, if you'd like to scribe for us, I think we can do this kind of like we did during the last meeting.
So you see the sheet of paper we're looking at is labeled in bold, discuss community goals. So kind of look over that and add to it, or if you disagree with something on here.
I'll jump in here even though I was a little late. I'd like to see a formalized planning process above and beyond the comprehensive plan.
So can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, how would they differ?
Well, when I attended the Economic Development Academy, this is one of the things they touched on, specifically with the DCA. So from this stage, you take it to a strategic planning and then an action planning level. So the comprehensive plan acts as your outline, and then you come up with a strategic plan with specific goals, and then you break it into action plans that achieve those goals. Does that make sense?
Do we not? I don't know how far this goes out. This planning, this meeting in particular. But do we get down into the weeds of those things, or is it still looking at 30,000 foot view after?
You're going to get down into some things like that, like the projects. When we get to work with each community and they start creating projects to work on over the next 5 years and hopefully complete. You know, a lot of those projects may be a little bit larger. Some of those projects may be, like Dr. Proctor mentioned, to work on it. You can, part of this plan could be to plan more specifically, because this is a joint comprehensive plan. One of the main purposes, one of the purposes the DCA requires this plan to maintain qualified local government status, and uses that carrot and stick approach, is because it gets people together like tonight. It gets people from the community interacting with their elected officials. It gets elected officials interacting with each other and thinking about things, which can be from a more broad perspective in this case, because we're looking at the entire county and all the cities combined together in one document. So if we were to tackle that with the specificity that a strategic plan would provide, it would, you could go hunting with it. It would be a massive document. So this is just something as a guide, for the general guide for the county and the cities. Strategic plans delve into specific topics, economic development. You can have a specific land use plan. So all sorts of different criteria. You can really get down into the serious details in a strategic plan. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to see as a goal for the county to coordinate its zoning ordinances with the taxing use ordinances. Right now there seems to be some differences between what the taxman uses and what the county planning department uses. And to coordinate that with the long-range plan so that our current zoning map is consistent with our long-range plan. If we've got certain areas that are going to be conservation areas, that the zoning in that area is consistent with the conservation use and that the taxation is consistent with that. And likewise with the highway business district, that land that is zoned highway business district is taxed as a highway business district, not the same as agriculture. Those things be worked out. Spend some time putting those things together so that they're consistent.
Very good.
I'll expand on a little more in regard to zoning. But I'd like to see industry, either preferably like an industrial park.
Anybody like to elaborate on, as we're talking about industry, economic development as a whole, as far as that goes? Anybody have any specific goals related to that? Particular type of industry? Yes, ma'am.
I serve on the PACA board, which is the Arts Alliance, and we are working on a strategic plan to move Pickens County forward as an arts and cultural destination, which obviously has an economic component that ties in with how the state has put together tourism, economic development, and the Georgia Council for the Arts, but also obviously of life enhancement.
Absolutely.
And an effort, excuse me, to work with our character areas to do that. And now I just want to tell everybody that I had my eyes dilated.
So is part of what you're suggesting looking at a particular area for an arts district, or just arts in general throughout the county?
Well, I think the major thrust of the vision is the first part of it is working together. We will make Pickens County an arts and cultural destination of local, regional, and international interest. Because when we started the Marble Festival, we had people come to the sculpture exhibit because it had international interest to it. So obviously we have an interest to make that. As you said, it's a pretty big goal, but as a vision, it seems worthwhile.
Could you elaborate a little more on and frame the vision a little more? Because I'll be forthcoming. I seem pretty ignorant in the arts and culture of things, and I can't see the vision that you guys might. But I want to be open to that. So if you could tell me what that looks like a little more when you're talking, when you're sitting down and talking to your group about that, what that looks like. Does that include the downtown area? How does it reform and shape things? Are we trying to target a certain group of people coming in? That kind of thing?
Well, the easiest way to kind of understand it is to think about what the state of Georgia has done. They have discovered that the entertainment business is a huge driver economically in the state of Georgia. So they saw the relationship of art, the arts. Obviously, if you're going to have a concert, that's the bridge between arts and economic development. So in the big picture, it's a new vision in the state of Georgia that the arts are big drivers of economic development. And that's a different way of looking at it than we have ever looked at it in Pickens County, because we just see it as something that the kids do, or something that, is casually done as a Sunday painter or, craft or whatever. But in the state of Georgia, the entertainment/arts industry is a huge economic driver and recognized as a part of the Economic Development Council. So it's only target is to work with all people in Pickens County, to give everybody in Pickens County an opportunity to be engaged in the arts. And to do that, you have to work with people outside the county. So it's
How does the tax break that the state gives work in correlation to what you're talking about? 'Cause when you say arts, what I think of, and you touched on this, and I appreciate the fact that you expanded out beyond my vision of what either a painting or a sculpture is. You talked about concerts, and then I'm also thinking about movie development too, that kind of thing. But how does the tax incentive fit into not just the movie scene, but say with concerts and other venues or items in that same realm or arena?
I'm not sure, somebody else might be able to
Talking about
answer.
money?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so for most things like parks and recreation, there's very little funding available, that has to be done kind of locally. And there's planning grants, and I think specific to the arts, there are grants for arts. But as far as anything related to like a park or recreation, there's very little public funding available.
Does that same theory apply to the concerts and stuff that you?
Well, if you look at Woodstock, when they built the amphitheater, the way they got this there, they talked to the north side, they talked to the local car dealerships, they got sponsorships, so the burden wasn't passed along to the citizens, but they were able to build this nice amphitheater, and then they bring in Journey, Mother's Finest, several good bands, Charlie Daniels. Everybody's coming in, buying gas, buying food. It's just a plus for the community. It definitely got potential.
We mean restaurants down there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just want to make sure that there's.
But you're right, you gotta find your niche. Do you want to do the old country crafts? Do you want to do fancy art like Picasso's and Winrods and all that fun stuff? You gotta find your niche with the art, but then you said you can't have a little bit of everything. I like going to a buffet. I'll try a little bit of everything, so it's a good thing. But you gotta find something to.
Well, at one time, going back several decades ago, probably back in the 40s and 50s, Jasper had, or Pickens County, but it was done right around the courthouse, was known for singing conventions, just as an example.
Yes.
So people would come from all over North Georgia for singing conventions for a weekend, and, and come from, I guess, maybe even all over the southeast to Jasper for singing conventions. Another big thing, popular music genre now is, bluegrass. You got the Sharp Mountain Picking Barn over here off Lower Mill Road. Some of the best, I guarantee you, some of the best musicians, as far as talent goes, you'll find anywhere or right there on every Saturday night. So to your example, and plus, like you said, the Marble Festival, that was a huge draw a number of years ago, was the sculptors and the art displays and so forth.
And we revived the arts this year, and I think it was successful. It was much smaller scale than what we had in the past. But
Well, yeah, you got to start back.
yeah, it was very
You gotta build
successful.
upon it. You gotta go.
That's right.
Once it gets out.
Just an observation, it seems to me that Pickens County has some unique geography. That's why most of us who have moved here from elsewhere, because we came here because of the mountains and the scenery and the weather and a whole bunch of things. And it seems to me we ought to capitalize on that and build that. I agree with Amelia on the arts, but we don't have an art museum. We don't have an amphitheater. We don't have a movie theater. We don't have much of anything in that whole area in this county. And that's a real handicap with young people keeping them here. And for the older folks like myself who come here, there's not a whole lot to do after 5 o'clock on Main Street.
Very good points. So that's two very good things going on. And again, the youth retention is a big part of, I think, what we've been hearing throughout this whole process is, creating that sense of place so that, when, let's say, children go off to college and things, that they're interested in coming back, for that matter.
They come back because they've got employment, and right now they don't have employment. There's service jobs, everybody says there's too many of, there's not enough manufacturing jobs. And you're not gonna get manufacturing without infrastructure.
Right.
Nobody wants to build sewer, so it's kind of a catch-22.
Jerry, while we're on this, in regard to the Marble Festival, did y'all just have the, your Marble Festival board meeting first time after,
Tomorrow,
or is it tomorrow?
or Thursday.
Well, okay, outside of that then, what was your perspective of what people were telling you as far as how the Marble Festival went down in regard to arts and that kind of thing?
Yeah, when we pulled together a big group, we were looking at what we were going to do this year. One of the key objectives was to enhance the positive impact to the community, many other things. So we did expand it as far as bringing in elements and activities downtown, at the airport, concert Saturday night downtown. We brought the art show back to the Chamber of Commerce at the Visitor Center. And I feel that we had a very positive impact on the community. I think people were very excited about what we did. We made some changes inside the gates to make it more, to provide more value when people came in. And again, we really wanted to make sure that what we did achieved our internal goals as well as the external goals of providing a festival that positively impacted the community. And for year one effort, I was very, very pleased. And it sounds like most of the feedback that I have heard has been very positive. Our follow-up meeting will be this Thursday because, again, year one effort, we're looking at how we can improve it, make it better and more beneficial every year. And we're open to ideas to further that.
Do you think though that theme of art though would continue on?
Absolutely. Again, for year one effort, the attendance at the art show was very good. And not only that, many pieces sold. So people were excited about having the opportunity to buy the local art at a show like that, and the exhibitors were very pleased as well. So I think it was a great start. I think moving forward, we'll try to do more things that incorporate the arts. Quick example, don't want to take too much of everybody's time, but these summer socials that we've been having on Thursdays at the green space at the end of Main Street, where we have a food truck and music and things like that. Quite frankly, Thursday is turning out to maybe not be, Thursday evening may not be the best time for that. So moving forward, we want to do events this summer on a Saturday in conjunction with our arts partners to have a good event that will bring more people into the community and take advantage of those local artists because we have a great deal of so many talented people and people wanting to buy that type of artwork. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Now let me 180 the question. The question before us is has been community goals for the community. Well, let's reverse that or switch it and say, what are some things that are not appropriate, that do not need to be promoted for this community? I mean, for example, we know that Canton right now is in the midst of promoting the Etowah River and redeveloping that area. Ball Ground is promoting its downtown. Calhoun continues to push for to be an industrial powerhouse. For this community, whether it's the towns, the city of Jasper, Pickens County, are there certain things that do not need to be here?
I think we need we've seen a little bit of growth in the big box stores, and especially along the interstate corridor. But being cautious of that and how that fits into our long-term objective. So that's just one idea.
We can do that through ordinance, to say when the big box comes, you say, don't be there 10 years and leave us an empty shell. Leave it better than what you found it. And that's what we have to do as a community. If not, we'll just have empty boxes there.
Or have it fit into the
Oh, it's
background.
style, like,
Yeah.
Just like you were down to Calhoun.
Something else to keep into consideration, depending off that, just think, we'll get one little thing out there just to see how everybody responds. I know that in our region, in the state, in the nation, we're very much into manufacturing and industry. And that's pretty well what the history of our area seated around as far as the major job creators, and it probably will continue to be that way. Has there been any other thought, Jerry, you might be able to answer this better than anyone, as to attracting other types of business, technical type things that don't require a ton of water or sewer capacity to operate on an industrial level?
We've had, one of the things that come up along those lines quite often is actually the idea of starting an incubator in order to attract maybe early stage businesses that might be more inclined to venture out of the metro Atlanta area. And even though we've had a lot of very smart people around the table, it's just very difficult to attract those types of high-tech businesses because most of them tend to want to gravitate towards the center where other like businesses are already established, which basically means Atlanta. So it's a really tough market to crack. Certainly if we have any opportunities, we work them just as hard as we can. But right now, it's just not, I don't feel a high probability opportunity for us. But again, open to suggestions. I know my favorite saying is my best ideas come from other people. So if some folks have some ideas that could help us, I would certainly love to have that conversation.
I just spoke with the mayor of Alpharetta last week, and he was talking about the high tech that's moved into Alpharetta.
Yeah.
That's really changing the face of their whole community. So he might have some good ideas, because apparently under his leadership, that's how it's spearheaded. So I don't know if you've spoken with him before or not, but that's an avenue of ideas, get his ideas.
Well, that's a good suggestion. I think Alpharetta can be a good model for us in a lot of respects. When we were forming our Downtown Alliance group, we actually went to Alpharetta, toured the downtown, and looked at some of the things that they did to help build their downtown area, yet preserve the look and feel through architectural standards. So that's a very good idea, and I appreciate that.
I think, so what Amelia's saying, if we had other things of involvement, such as the arts, that would be easier to attract that type of technology, because a lot of those are, and I would say this with all due respect, a little bit on the artsy side anyhow, creative.
Sure.
So that would help if we could do that, because I mean, there's other communities that have capitalized on the arts in North Georgia, and just almost every community within a 50-mile radius of here, that's one of their main attractions is the arts, and that does help bring in business because it keeps young people, or helps keep young people in those communities with a halfway decent viable job without having to drive, an hour and a half down the road.
Ms. Monahan, I think she had a question
Oh,
before everybody else.
okay.
Let us
Oh, no,
go
it's
back
right.
to her.
It was feeding into talking about like the big box store development. One of the things that drives me crazy is we have a gazillion Dollar Generals everywhere, and they just keep popping up. So instead of just these Dollar Generals everywhere, try to attract a variety of businesses, different stores and things like that, instead of the same thing. I think that would, give people options to go to. Maybe at Target or, not even, I don't want to aim too high here, but, just other stores other than the Dollar General. Because it seems like every time you turn around, there is one, so. Quality businesses, a variety of businesses.
Okay. So some entrepreneurship and franchise type things.
Retailers follow the demographics, and the demographics in this area scream Dollar General.
I don't think they attract.
Yes, sir.
Just to comment on the high-tech question. If you're going to attract high-tech business, you're going to have fat pipes for data, which means you're going to have internet infrastructure. You're going to have that. You're going to have access to airports. You're going to have transportation. Mass transit is a bucket of worms you may or may not want to open. But so many people are working at home today that if you don't have, again, fat pipes, if you don't have fiber, if you don't have high bandwidth, you're not going to have high-tech infrastructure, not going to have high-tech business coming in. The good news there is a lot of those businesses don't require necessarily a lot of sewer and water, or have a lot of water and sewer requirements. But if you're going to build office parks, what have you, software development centers, then you're going to have water, sewer, and power. But to attract business, you've got to have the networking infrastructure so that those people can work at home and work rapidly.
And to add on to that too, these young people don't want to go home and watch the news. They want to go get a good meal, partake in a little bit of entertainment, and you've got to make it attractive to them. That's the reason they're attracted to the ball grounds and the Woodstocks and the Buckheads, because at night they've got something to do. They don't cook supper anymore. They go out and eat at night.
Ball ground just got created in the last year. They created it.
Yeah,
It didn't just happen.
I know.
But you
It's
said
been in the last
then-
few years it's been going on.
I
We've
mean,
been playing
I'll
for
take it
30
as an example. I came through ball ground about 8 o'clock Friday night. There was people all over the street. There was all this parking. And you've got all this traffic guys driving through, the transfer trucks. It's unbelievable. So I decided I'd just make a point to drive through Jasper. I drove through Jasper. 20 minutes later, there was people parking down at 61 Main. It was already closed, but it was 8:30. There was nothing. The wing store was one car, and you saw nothing else except when you get down to Woodward Gin. Jasper's been sitting here forever. Ball Ground created themselves in the last year or so in the most unbelievable
It's been longer than that.
circumstances.
It's been a few years.
Well, I go through there several times a month, so I
Did you
kind of see
drive
what's
through
been
their highway
going on.
corridor?
I'm sorry?
Did you drive through their highway corridor?
Yeah, well,
Ball
how else
ground?
do you get through there?
They don't have one. They don't have a highway corridor.
Well, that's it, the main road is it.
And so if you look at the comparison of the way they've grown, which is Cherokee County has 260,000 people.
Fastest growing county in the state.
We have 30,000.
But that's in the northern part, Ball Ground is in, I know where Ball
But that
Ground
growth
is.
is
Ball
coming-
Ground is in the northern part, there's very few subdivisions there. I'm amazed that they developed the way they did.
372 is almost all residential.
Sure is.
Yeah, ball grounds got a lot of, the whole surrounding town is just a big subdivision. I mean,
But
they're,
our growth
Actually,
is,
it's mostly individual homes, I'm
Our
a
growth is-
resident too.
well, it's not multi-housing, but our growth has been mostly on the corridor, which has been mostly commercial, with very little residential expansion. And because of that investment in the infrastructure on the highway, there's been very little investment in the infrastructure in town. And so you're competing these mom and pop shops that have been on the downtown area with what's going on out on the highway. And I agree with you that ball ground.
I just think it's amazing when you look at Ball Ground and people all over the streets, and you come to Jasper, that's been here forever, and there's not any,
Well, they had
there's
the-
no one on the street.
They had the political will to do that, even though their mayor's been there for a long, long time, and they have a very aggressive,
That's the issue, they have the
and they have a
political
very
will.
aggressive and different city manager who's very talented, and he's helped orchestrate some of that stuff.
But as far as the tech, Chattahoochee should, and that's probably not possible, but their tech courses that they teach are the very basics. Like Gwinnett County boomed years ago by programmers setting up these little rooms doing development. And so much of Gwinnett County developed 20 years ago, whatever, just by tech people. A lot of them coming here from India, quite frankly. And it just seems like the college we have here should be able to teach some tech classes that possibly would bring in some developers or whatever to set up small shops.
Well, it goes
I
back
just
to
think
what
that's something that we've not explored.
But it goes back to what he said, you gotta have the pipes. When that county had data.com, they put in concrete encased duct line with fiber optics going everywhere. They're able to do that. We don't have that here. We're lucky to have 4G.
I mean, I just want to say I agree with you on that, to see the increase in the ball ground, even if we don't, I'm not saying to chase away the mom and pop shops in Jasper, but try to encourage them to open up a little bit later. I know Wingsology, I think, is the only one that stays open later, and usually they do have people there, but that's, people get off of work and they want to go somewhere, but everything's already closed, so then they just wind up going elsewhere.
They also seem to focus on specific events too, to be able to stay open, which is a different type of management style. I mean, I know they push a lot on that Wednesday, Thursday to be able to get that Friday crowd.
So the summary is, we all realize that our downtown area needs revitalizing, and there's a lot of energy that's being put into figuring out what we can do, and it's not all been made public yet, but there's a lot of energy going into what we can do to make our downtown area better.
But I want to compliment it and say that there's a, you know, the important part of anything, of building anything, is a good quality foundation. And downtown Jasper has that, an awesome foundation. So we just need to build on it and it'll become something great.
And I don't think we're too far-fetched. If you go into Dawson, and it's almost a tale of two worlds in Dawson. Downtown Dawsonville, the roundabout is a different world from the world that you see on 400 corridor. And I think if there's anyone out there that mimics what we've done thus far, that's where we might be headed, where it's a tale of two worlds. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. I think that you could have this quaint idea of what someone would imagine a downtown or a Main Street district to be, but then they have the option to go a little further out and have that separation of big box stores that with theaters and alike, what 400 would bring. And I don't think that's too far-fetched an idea. I could be absolutely wrong. Barry, you can correct me on those kind of things. You know better than probably anybody else in this room of how different cities are set up. But that's when if you go into downtown Dawsonville, 8 or 9 o'clock, you probably see about the same kind of experience that you do in hours.
And you had to look to find one, and you had to look for one like that,
But
right?
it doesn't mean that the money's not there, because then, again, you have that 400 corridor, which stays open a lot longer and later.
That's what also is, we'll also.
But that's some distance away, I mean, that's probably
It's not far.
8
One thing you
miles.
gotta look at is also to complement the stores that we have downtown. Jasper drugs don't need to stay open to 8 or 9 o'clock. More furniture doesn't need to stay there. We have lawyer offices. Just gotta complement what you have downtown to work with. You know, we've gotta attract more businesses to come and make it attractive to businesses. We need to sell, we got 53 Highway, which is an east-west connector. We need to sell 515, which is a north-south connector. We also are very, very close to Atlanta, also very close to Chattanooga in ways. You know, we've got to be able to sell ourselves to bring the business here. And one thing is we've got to get our property prices where they need to be attractive. Right now, dirt in Pickens County is gold if you put it on real estate. I mean, there's these businesses ain't gonna spend that kind of money to come here.
There are very few towns in this country that have survived when an interstate is going by it, near it. That's why you see a lot of the highways deviate to a small town, because the politicians there were able to get the DOT to move the highway closer to them. But when you get a highway.
And ours moved ours further away. It
Yeah.
used to come right through my house.
But, the answer
Before I
is,
lived here.
the answer is you can have both, but you gotta have a mayor and city council and commissioners that wanna do that. If they don't wanna do it, then nothing's gonna happen. And so, if that's not happening in this county, we gotta do something about who runs the county and who runs the city. With elected officials who want to see development, entertainment, vitality in the community.
They stated at the last meeting, both the county and the city, that they did not want that kind of growth.
Well,
Everybody came here because they wanted it this way, and we're gonna keep it that way.
and that's what we're gonna end up with.
I know.
You want Jennifer?
Wait a minute, now, one individual said that. One individual said that, and I called him out on it, and he said I hadn't been around here long enough.
I think so in talking about downtowns and talking about, you know, keeping things going in the evenings for people to do. So when we're talking in terms of goals, just to get a consensus of this room, when we're talking about the goals for the downtowns and creating things to do, so we're looking for a blend of entrepreneurship, you know, businesses, restaurants, things like that, entertainment type things that are going to be open generally after hours, without running off the folks who have a vested interest here, who've been established here for decades or however long. Some of these folks who may have been there, the family-owned businesses since the mortar dried. So, you know, you don't want to have those people, you know, thrown out. They have a vested right to be there, so it's figuring all that out. So what is the goal? I know we're talking a lot about downtown, this year, like Jasper's been mentioned a lot, in talking about that. So specifically with Jasper, if I'd like to speak on that, what about a goal for Jasper in the downtown? We talk about vitality and things.
Mixed use. We won't be able to see just what you said.
So residential downtown, so,
In town.
okay. So that's something to think about, mixed use development.
And my idea would be some sort of middle market, starter homes, quality construction, not necessarily multi-family, but a lot of people in a small area that could help support the downtown business area.
Or
Right.
bring the youth here, we can be selling $600,000-$700,000 houses, there's no way they're gonna be able to buy them.
Right, that's, you know, diverse housing can be a part of that, a big part of that, certainly in attracting from the younger generation, especially in the millennial generation. You know, a lot of them don't have the interest in buying into a piece of property, living and dying there. You know, they want to keep it a place with low overhead, things of that nature. They want to have 40 acres. Yes, ma'am.
I think we're really fortunate that the 515 in Jasper are really, I think it's a little bit over a mile, but it's not like Dawsonville really has like, what, 6 miles in between?
Quite a bit.
Yes, but we only have a little over a mile. Don't help me, I'm struggling here. But I was thrilled to see Richard on the thing about that area was sidewalks. And that road, West Church Street is slated to be wider. But I think a priority in my mind is that we need those sidewalks from downtown to the 4-lane because we also want to put that gateway sign. Well, we really can't put the sign there until we know how wide the road is going to be.
Yeah, but Amelia.
And that involves the
Been
sidewalk.
talking for 10 years about widening 53, and every time it comes up, longer term.
That's true.
So it's
but
on
you
the
know what?
table again.
Yeah.
You know what, Roger, I am so glad you said that because I think that is exactly to the point. If we are talking about important goals right now, an important goal for Pickens County is to enhance our most important character area, which is downtown Jasper, by getting the sidewalks and the corridor between 515 and downtown.
Bonnie, you want to talk about the big plan?
I've been with the city 12 years next month, and I've been hearing about the big plan ever since I went to work here. I do meet with the DOT on a regular basis. I meet with them the first Monday of every month. City officials could be there, county officials, people, heads of departments are invited. And so we discuss these things. The big plan is back on the table again, as Dr. Proctor said. They're saying that hopefully by January of this coming year, they will be buying properties, going through all this, and by January of 19, that they will start some construction. We have heard that before, but the DOT has money now.
Yeah.
They didn't have the money to do small projects, much, in the last few years. They are making things happen. You travel around Pickens County, you travel around all the counties around us, and look what's happening at the roads and the DOT projects. It's happening. I'm not gonna rule out the big project till the DOT says it's been cut. As long as it's on the table, it's possible. There's other projects around the city of Jasper and Pickens County. They're widening 53 going up of Marble Hill. They're talking about a roundabout at the White Talking Rock. They're talking about a roundabout in front of the high school entrance. All of these things they are saying are gonna happen. They're on the table. They have the money to make it happen, but there's a process to do it in also. DOT is their own entity, and they put priorities where they see. And You know, we can disagree with them, and we have. County has, city has. But still, they have their rules, their guidelines, and we try to work with them as these events come up. Yes, I think 50 West Church Street, if they can do the big project, I think that could be an asset to downtown Jasper. If they can make these things happen, it will be a major thoroughfare through our town. But there's a lot of things, and from what I'm hearing, there's lots of things going on in the city of Jasper and Pickens County, and I don't know how many of you know about these things. Some of them, as Dr. Proctor said a minute ago, and John, they haven't come out yet. I mean, if you have a new company, I work across the hall from planning and development for the city. If a big box comes in here and wants to talk about land and everything, now don't tell nobody. You've got to keep this confidential because we don't know if we're going to buy this property or this property or this property. We don't even know if we're coming. We want to do a population study, a traffic study. We want to do all these type of things. There's things that local governments can't talk about until it's ready to happen. And this is some of the things that I hear every day. I hear it all. That's my job, is out talking to people and getting annexations and easements and right-of-ways and different things. But I try to make people understand it's not the city, it's not the county that brings these things in here. They gotta wanna be here first. And then they come in and do their studies. And if they see it suitable, then they'll start buying property and start progressing, just like the Windsor Lodge over here at the hospital. That come in here and they started building in just a few months. They did all their paperwork, all their permits, everything, and they're building. And that's what things can happen if we are a city and a county that can work together and meet these people when they show an interest. Yes, sir.
What are we getting at 515 and 108 there? What are they building now?
There is a group of people has purchased the land there. They are grading. They've talked to the DOT. I think they are in the process of getting the permit, or may already have it, to take down that berm.
I think they have it on.
And they are looking at different things. It was a group of investors. And from what I have been told, right now there's nothing definite. It's a group of investors that bought the property. They've talked about mixed use. They've talked about commercial. They've talked about different things, housing. I guess the bottom line will be when the investors sit down at the table and say, okay, we have the property ready. The city has worked with them on infrastructure. They've moved probably about 400 foot of sewer line, force main. They've moved a 10-inch water main to meet their obligations with the DOT. I mean, things are happening. And some of it may be slower than we want to see it, but there's a time and place for everything, and we have to be patient sometimes.
Thank you, Lonnie. We're going to transition. Take 5 minutes, please, to use the restroom, get some water, walk around the room. We're going to get specific in 5 minutes and talk about individual parts of the community. See you back here in 5. The so-called gateway to Jasper, West Church Street from 515 in. The sheet you got in front of you in bold that's labeled Discuss Future Land Use and Development. If you will please look at those. What is laid out here is the 2008 adopted comprehensive plan that was revised in 2013. And so at this time, what we're going to do is just open it up to the floor to, based on what you're looking at here, what may need to be changed in the sense that we already know that, for example, with the development of Dollar General on Cove Road, the 2008 comprehensive plan called for Cove Road as a variety of residential and institutional with the potential for commercial on that corridor. but that may no longer be appropriate depending on input. Does anybody have any, whether it's the county or the city, specific input on this?
Right across the road from it is 6 acres. About 2 years ago, the planning commission turned down the zone commercial. So I happen to be sitting next to the developer for Dollar General, Pete Host. We just got up and cussed, and he said, I'll buy the property across the street and build a store. That's the challenge. And he did. So now somebody's gonna come and want to rezone that 6 acres. And if you don't zone it highway business, you're gonna be sued. Because it's right across the street.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. The reason that Dollar General was built is that property was already zoned commercial.
For 10 years.
Well, it doesn't matter. It was zoned commercial when he bought it.
And I was told that it never goes to a commercial zone because it won't perk. And it's a watershed, and nothing big can be built on it. But we found out that's not true.
Well, I mean, I don't know who told you that, but obviously it was already zoned commercial. And as far as the water perk and all that goes, that would be more of a state environmental issue than it would be.
The developer of the property and the commissioners said that, and the health department all said that.
Now, I'll pick on Mr. Haviland because he's been unusually quiet tonight. Whether it's Mr. Haviland or Tina or anybody who's interested in Nelson. Right now, for example, the future of Nelson is seen potentially, and obviously this is not set in stone, but potentially residential, institutional, commercial, industrial, parks and recreation. Does all that fit? Does some of it not fit?
Well, I have actually good news in the works. There was a company already there, a Universal Stair, that built stair parts, and it was, a small building. They completed their expansion earlier this year. They're actually considering another expansion because they're doing so well there, and the properties on either side of that have sold, and I'm currently speaking with the developers and engineers for plans which will bring in more business, that we need more business and more income, so that's good. Just this week I got the phone call, so it was exciting.
So business friendly for Nelson may be a good thing?
I mean, bringing in jobs, nothing crazy, chemicals or anything like that, but light industrial to where, bringing in jobs. And one of the companies was even willing to put something in the agreement in our preliminary discussion where residents would have first dibs at the jobs, which is good because a lot of, residents are looking for jobs local and not having to drive far away.
I know we've got some residents of extreme east, extreme west, Pickens. Obviously, in the city of Jasper, I mean, does all this look good? Does some of it need changing?
Well, Richard, it obviously needs to be looked at because there's been a lot of changes in the last 10 years. And I can't see Cove Road, I can't see many happy people or smiling faces there if that's still going to remain potential commercial. So I think it all ought to be looked at.
The problem is when you have zoning that is commercial in an area that your long-range plan says is going to be conservation area, and you got some inconsistencies that need to be resolved.
Well, if you ride out Highway 53, it's inconsistent. I mean, you've got houses, you've got businesses, you've got billboards, you've got just a hodgepodge of everything imaginable out that road. I don't understand, and haven't looked into it, what the zoning really is along there, but it's pretty loose, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know, the topography, the way the land rolls on Cove Road, for the most part, is hilly and rocky and what have you in a lot of areas. I mean, at best, the only thing you do is residential. Now, so I can't see.
53 in Marble Hills, pretty much parallel the code. I mean, it does, it's very similar as far as hilly and rocky and.
That's what I'm saying, so you're limited by the topography to a certain extent, just right there on those veins, or on those arteries, so. But to whoever said it, you're not gonna, most people are not gonna want commercial development along Cove Road.
If I could say one thing, more than zoning, one of the key things is ordinance and code. You remember you and I had a conversation? And the reason I'm interested, my house joined Dollar General. And I tried to get them to change the roof color. I tried to, even though it's a big box store, they make beautiful stores. But when I sent the list to Richard, it's not his fault, to ask him, could they make it a different color or go to a brick store? They actually just told me to sit down and shut up because the ordinance didn't call for that. So I think if you're going to have commercial, you need to make the ordinance that you can control the size of the store, the color of the store. Every morning I look out and see a 9,000 square foot galvanized roof. And all I ask is make it round. And come back and say no. Ordinance. Start tomorrow.
Now, I'm sorry, and I may be wrong on this, but I remember during, what was that, Irma, Tropical Storm Irma, some of the worst damage in Pickens County was on Cove Road with downed trees and stuff like that, so that, I mean, unless that was changed or they chopped all those trees down or what, like how would you, it's a windy road, like up a hill, I'm assuming, because I haven't been there and I do apologize for that, but how would they put businesses there? How would they
It's
put?
a small scale commercial,
Okay.
like Dollar General.
Well, I think they put a 4-foot drain, that you can see a 4-foot drain to take care of all the water that comes down through there. Every ounce of that soil has been moved, and 4-foot drains that collected, and then they have a detention pond there, and it rains, it comes up with water, then it settles back down to this. And then the rest of the area, they let them seed it with annual ryegrass over a year ago.
Now it's all ground.
It's all ground. And I sent a
Matches
note over
the
to
fence.
Phelps in Calhoun. He said, well, if you start the erosion, we'll take care of it. I mean, how can they get by with putting out annual ryegrass as a cover? You know, it's just simple arithmetic. Doesn't work.
So what you're saying is the construction requirements are inadequate?
Well, if you're going to have a ground cover, you know, what they say is you have to plant a tree that in 10 years it will be 6 inches in diameter. Today it's like this. Now, at my age, I don't even buy green bananas. But all the back of it, where all the 4 foot, and I mean it's 4 foot high, you can almost set up a walk in it. And into the big culverts this way. And we finally convinced them not to cut down a 100-year-old oak to plant a 6-foot holly. So they did that. But then they seeded the rest of it with annual ryegrass. And it was beautiful, you know, until the summer came. Of course. And I mean, I don't understand the thinking.
So in the future, what we need as a goal is more extensive construction regulations?
Absolutely. Highway business, it says that if you are residential here to residential here, you have to build a fence so you can't see the air conditioning. They put it on the roof. And over here, you can't have the dumpster. And you have to have a fence around the dumpster. Now, I'm elevation of 15 feet. So an 8-foot fence doesn't do anything for me. But I think the ordinance should be that you have the ability to control a little bit more of what goes on in the neighborhood. And if they don't like what you put down, then they can go somewhere else.
It's a difficult balance, though, trying to attract businesses. And I can understand it from your perspective, too. You're a resident, you own a home there, and you want to enjoy that home, and that was taken away. So I'm seeing your perspective. But from a government perspective, when you want to attract businesses, it's finding that balance between helping those that live there and then wanting to keep the businesses coming in, and it's a very difficult thing to
I
find.
would ask the question, who invited them to come? I don't think you'll find anybody that worked to get Dollar General there.
Oh, no, Dollar General, I'm not even gonna, they're like a disease. They just
And
go
this-
with-
They find the spot and go after it.
Yeah.
They do their own research, they do their
Oh, I
own
know,
marketing.
I know.
Yeah.
This guy is right. We've got a lot of places we don't need to use certain areas of the county when we've got all this highway district, as y'all are calling it, with, you know, what sewer we've got and what water. I understand. And this man said he don't want his, he moved here because of how we are. She just told me she moved here because of how we are. It's a delicate balance. But whatever, I mean, I'm new to this, I've been to them, but it's been a while. What everybody's saying is just kind of repeat, you know, I mean, this is, somebody eventually's gotta say, well, we gotta put this pipeline, we gotta do this, cause it's 12 or 15 years, you know, this is the same thing I keep hearing, just like everybody says. But the smartest thing I've heard tonight is keep it, if you're gonna have factories, kind of keep them over on the road and live in wherever you're, you know, where it's suitable.
Well, that corner over there, how many people live on Cold Road? But I mean, it affects a lot of people. Used to, you go around the curve, there's not even any power lines there because they run there. You go around the curve, you feel like you're in your own little world. But now, I don't care where you live, you turn into Dollar General. Now, I don't have a thing against Dollar General. They have 12,000 stores. They're a $24 billion company. They make $272 a square foot because I've researched them. But it carries an air about it. And I think if you want to beautify Pickens County, you want businesses, but you gotta control what they look like. And what long-lasting effect does it have?
I've got a general question for the Jasper folks in the audience. Talk to me a little more, give me details, flesh out traditional neighborhood, which is at the bottom of this sheet. In-town residential Jasper, recommend mixed residential. Is that something still, that was 2008.
Well, the mixed residential.
Is that still to be recommended?
A lot of times you have businesses on the lower floor, and there was apartments above, especially in downtown. We had a lot of that back then. You go where the, I call the old Blue Star, all down below it, there's apartments and other mixed-use stuff there. It's basically saying that we take advantage of every square inch of downtown.
So have you been through Woodstock lately, downtown Woodstock?
Yes, I
where,
have.
where they decided they're gonna take this and they put up some.
Well, they put up Woodstock West,
Great.
over where the funeral home was. They tore it down to build in a high-rise there. There is a point now that they can build high-rises. We're limited because our fire protection, if you ever how high you have to have ladder
So
trucks
fire
or
protection
bucket
has
So
trucks.
we got 30 feet now is our zone.
Yeah,
So it's basically 2-story.
but Woodstock's growing up now, not out.
Right, well, that was a conscious, you know,
Well,
decision that we're
the
gonna have
issue
to
that
have
they're
a fire.
running into now is parking.
Right, yeah. Well, they're having shuttles now.
Mhm.
So there's like remote parking with shuttles taking people into town, so.
So I like the idea of the mixed residential with the apartment or the living quarters above. I don't know how realistic it is, but I do think that the cluster home idea on certain properties where you can maximize your cost would be something that would benefit our downtown area. Obviously, I like in-town residential Jasper because that's where I live, but don't want to see that changed.
As a millennial, I can definitely vouch for the idea that I want my work and home to be as close as possible. And I don't want to have to put up with the hassle sometimes. Now, I say that with 5 acres of land now, having to cut grass every week, but you know, there's a trade-off of some things.
Right in.
Do what?
Put ryegrass down.
Well, you say that.
Only have to plant it once.
You say that, I'm only like 200 yards from the Dollar General, you know, so.
Hey, you have a lot of courage to admit you're in a millennial in this group.
Well, and it's not courage, it is what it is. I mean, every voice has got to be able to speak up. But yeah, I'm absolutely open to the idea of making sure that there's a healthy work-play environment. And when it comes to being able to have me enthusiastically look somewhere else, you know, something similar to Woodstock in its style is highly appealing because there's low maintenance. I can be able to within walking distance of restaurants and shops, and it's got everything that typically most anybody in my category of age-wise would want or need. Plus, it's convenient to work, even if it's not downstairs from my work or downstairs from my home. At least I'm 30, 45 minutes from most everything. So, and hearing those people that live in that area too, that's what they're also saying. Is that within 30 minutes they can be just about anywhere they need to be to get that six-figure job, and also feel like they're far enough away from Atlanta. But it's the same type of things that attract people here too. They just may be 30 minutes out.
Well, the thing with Woodstock too is it's just not just millennials, it's also seniors. Two of the side rises are seniors. They're near a major hospital, they have doctor groups there. I mean, they have restaurants, they have things for the seniors to do too. And we have a great hospital to feed on over here. We've got something to work with, it's just that we've got to get it started. And you got to do it with planning. And you need to do good planning. Don't just jump into it haphazard. Figure on 10 years down the road where you're going to be. Aim high. There's nothing wrong with doing that. That's what we've got.
Do it right the first time so that you're not fixing your mistakes and wasting more money by having to do the correcting things over and over.
And when you do an ordinance, you got to remember that ordinance can be a double-edged sword. You really got to think that ordinance out. You know, somebody sounds good to you, say nobody can have red doors. Well, shoot, your wife might want to tell them the next day, say, I was just on HGP, we want a red door. You know, you got to be careful.
But we don't have anybody like that who's been able to come in and really take charge of what that vision looks like.
Well, what happens to private property rates with the commercial
That's
development?
double-edged
Because that's one of the things that you have to be aware of, that infringing on citizens' private property rights is just against everything Americana stands for. It's the basis of our whole society. And so,
and I mean,
that's where
I like living outside the city limits for one reason only, is to be able to shoot guns. I mean, that's the trade-off you get with being inside the city. Fortunately, I can't shoot guns around Sunday, so, sorry.
Why not?
We have a gun range downtown in downtown Dalton. So you can go into downtown Dalton and shoot your gun. So that's actually a possibility in downtown.
Just pull off a few rounds and put the gun on.
Yeah, that might arouse some attention currently. Okay, so in thinking about finding that, bridging the gap as far as doing overlay districts and things like that may require more regulation. And those are in sensitive areas like a downtown. You've got historic buildings and you've got a lot of character that you'd like to preserve. So there may be things that go into effect like that.
Tell them the process to become a historical building. Tell them what all they have to do to get on the register.
Well, first thing you have to do is to be a contributing structure. So you have to have and maintain a certain amount of integrity of that building that looks like it looked 100 years ago. Or at this point, I think 50 years is the, you know, so you've got some what they call mid-century modern architecture, but looking back like downtown Jasper, you know, the windows, the any kind of alterations that have been made to structures, structurally on the exterior, that alter the historical significance of it. So you drive by it, you can see that that's obviously modernized changes that have been made is not acceptable in a historic district. So you don't get the tax credits, you can't have the historic district unless you have a certain amount of preserved and intact contributing structures in a particular area. And so it's a very cumbersome process to go through. It takes a lot of time, a lot of work with your local officials and the Historic Preservation Department.
A lot of people want the benefits of the historical area until they realize all the requirements that are set forth in achieving that and maintaining that.
Right. The adverse, or the other side of that is it's a tough thing to get established if you have to do a lot of work to get it established. You also have to have a committee of individuals who are going to meet and establish a historic preservation committee. So, and they have to be regular and meet with business owners, talk about facades and things of the buildings, what you can do. They really don't tell you what you can do on the inside of the building so much. What they generally err to is what the building looks like outside. So if you drive through downtown, it's got a significant historic feel. And one of the benefits of that, the reason that you go through that trouble, is because property values in historic districts, they don't necessarily just keep escalating. They'll generally plateau off, but they'll hold steady, whereas other places that don't have design guidelines like historic preservation or historic district have established will plummet, because someone could come in next door, build, let's not say Dollar General, but a store, and they could just build this horribly unattractive store next to the most beautiful building in downtown, or just completely destroy the historic character of a building downtown and totally destroy the property value of an entire block. The property is specifically adjacent because the aesthetics of a particular area may be what creates the character of that area, specifically in a downtown. You know, you've got kind of a tight rope to walk there, and but again, having that historic district does have a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of overlay, but and requirements that may seem contradictory, but the long-term effect of a historic district is pretty much all positive.
One area we have not talked about a whole lot is West Pickens, and that area in terms of residential development has come back, whether you talk about Stone Ledge on Matthews Road or Village at Oak Creek on 53 West. But we don't necessarily have to talk residential development, but in general, West Pickens, what is the worst thing that could happen to West Pickens?
Y'all aren't gonna like this answer. One of the best things that's happened to us is the Dollar General in Hinton. Because it has saved us from driving all the way to population centers to get necessary items. If the baby's sick, if mama needs something, if Ingalls was out of Mayfield Milk last night. You can go to the Dollar General and get it. We have seen this as an economic benefit. It's more environmentally friendly, and it's safer because we're not clogging the roads up. We're able to get essential items whether we're on the way home from our workplace or whether it keeps us from going that far. That's probably been one of the biggest pluses to our area. Save people a tremendous lot of time and effort. We have really seen a large influx of new property owners come to the area. They're selling out in the urban areas where they're overdeveloped with their multifamily use properties. People are selling in those areas and they're coming to find some dirt in Pickens County. These are really, really good people. They're really adding to our community, and if you ever want to see how to make a community work, go to our fundraiser at the Hinton Volunteer Fire Department in the fall and play bingo with us and do a cakewalk.
and look at what community involvement can do for an area. We're doing quite well. We welcome anybody that thinks that we've got the demographics to come put up a store of any kind. We'll probably go spend money there. And the only question I've got to the people here with the city of Jasper, traveling all over our country, you have all kinds of small towns that have gone through what we're going through. Is it our future vision to keep bottlenecking all of our traffic, whether it comes from Bent Tree, Big Canoe, Cove Road, Grandview, the mountain, coming 53 east-west? Is the vision to continue bottlenecking in Jasper? Other towns have done things and they call them bypasses, so that the east-west traffic, the truck traffic, the people that aren't in a daily grind, don't clog up those centers. It seems to work quite well, and they can maintain their character of having their nice towns and their vital businesses. So that would be my question to the city of Jasper for the future, is bottlenecking. If you build 8 lanes for 1 mile from the interstate to the red light.
So you talking about truck traffic or day-to-day traffic?
All east-west traffic, people, pickup trucks pulling trailers, tractor trailers hauling goods. Can you think of anywhere you'd park in downtown Jasper doing that? No, it's not conducive to that.
Well, there's a bunch of empty lots down there though, if the owners would cooperate with us, we could put a deck with expanded parking on it. But right now, they're all kind of hanging all tight on to it, thinking they're gonna find some marble under it, I guess,
But I'm just being realistic with transportation.
No.
And most areas around the country have come up with, hey, if we'll divert that, we can maintain that character there, keep the historical present, have your arts, vision, and your ongoing businesses. So that's just, I've never heard that mentioned since Lou Chastain worked with the DOT.
Well, you're exactly right, because if you're coming in from Cove Road, Burke Mountain Road, East Church Street, you can't get into Jasper without going through that intersection, where it's a huge bottleneck. And then if you're coming up, if I want to go from where I live off of Cove Road, if I want to go south of town, there's no way to get there except to come into town and go and take a left and go all the way down through that. So it's a real bottleneck, and there ought to be some roads that you can cross over to get to another part of the town without having to go through that intersection.
Lonnie, when's the last time we built a new road in the city of Jasper away from the highway?
Built a new road? I don't have that date.
Been a while though, hasn't it?
Hey, Sonny, I think the last new road was 515, and that was built in the mid-80s.
We did a traffic study a year ago or so, and it addressed some of the easy things that we could do to help that bottleneck situation. Again, easy in traffic doesn't necessarily mean cheap, but there were some simple things that could be done to kind of divert the traffic and get it on.
And I came to that, and me being a local person, if you train me on those patterns, I could probably get used to them.
Yeah.
Put yourself in the role of people driving from state to state, place to place, using GPSs. Even though that was a creative plan for some of us local people,
Gotcha.
I think the traveling public, it would become a nightmare.
Well, that's a good point. And I guess the simple way that we've at least talked about doing that is with directional signage, but I never even really give much thought. My GPS on my car doesn't work no matter where you are, but.
Well, you got challenges though. You've got to think about where the Methodist church is and where the graveyard is. We're not moving any graveyards, and this would be a DOT project. It wouldn't be a city of Jasper. They were talking about going out by Dove and M's and coming back down Mineral Springs Road and back out through there. There's been several plans, but there's a lot of obstacles that might sound good to some folks, but it don't sound good to others.
It all ended up all in Burr Mountain though. Still, all of it funneled right back to that same intersection at the Baptist church.
In closing,
You're right, boy.
get with me if you have individual comments. Our next meeting is Tuesday, December 12th, right here, 6:30. Thank you for your time, and y'all have happy Thanksgiving since we'll meet till December.